Hi there, it's Polly here with Mr. Snoots. Yay! And so we had some more viewer input and questions and so on. So I'm going to answer one of these, and it was about running role-playing campaigns that are military-based campaigns and adventures. Okay, so what makes good ones? What makes bad ones? What tools do we need? Well. So role-playing games have their roots in war games. War games clubs created them, and they were originally through games like Braunstein, which was the first role-playing game. They were really an adjunct to a military campaign. So Braunstein, for instance, the idea was to play out sort of a civilian or military intelligence interaction within a Napoleonics campaign. And of course, original D&D kind of grew out from a set of medieval skirmish rules. But very early on, we saw games like Traveller turn up. And Traveller had a very military basis. Your characters were almost always ex-military. Rare was the character that was a merchant or scout or belter. You know, mostly they're going to be Marine commandos, or they're going to be Navy, or, you know, God help us. So lots of mil skills, to an extent where minor military skills were massively overrepresented, and there were no what you would consider Star Trek-y style science skills. Original Traveller has no science skills, none. Don't care about that xenobiology, don't care how to figure out what that creature is, don't care about astrophysics, don't care about any of it. I can guide a ship, I can fire the weapons on a ship, I can repair a ship, I can shoot people, I can stab people, or I can recon, even things like liaison or whatever, done in military terms. It was very clearly designed to be a military-esque game. And the first real supplement that was brought out for it was Mercenary, which outlined a whole series of ways of training troops, raising troops, financing troops, getting troops from point A to point B, being paid for the services of those troops, you know, running a mercenary company. And you could roll that into things like Striker, which was a tabletop game based on Traveller, and you could actually play those out on tabletop if you wished. But it just gave really the nuts and bolts, how much it costs, you know, how to raise troops, that sort of thing. It didn't really provide you with much more. You're going to have to cook up the rest. And therein kind of lies the problem, and I think, you know, which makes the question I've had a very valid one, because cue some spectacular fails and some spectacular successes attempting to use these rules. And rules very like them. So, I had the strange fortune when I was at university running the role-playing club there. In fact, creating the role-playing club there, I think. There was a beautiful guy called Ivan, and his father had been a French Foreign Legionary, God help us. So he had many tales of La Légion étrangère and how it ran and the kind of individuals that were in it. So on that basis, you know, I tried running a role-playing campaign, and the idea was you were all French Foreign Legion. And so my idea was, you've joined the Legion for a reason, so everyone has a dread secret which you have to put down. Sometimes these secrets can be very damaging, sometimes they can be embarrassing, sometimes they're just nothing. But if you've joined up because you are escaping, say, a murder, there might be a chance that there's someone who joins up who is somewhere on the other side of the case. You know, they're the relative of whoever died, or, you know, they were the policeman who was cashiered because they can never find the person behind it. So there was some potential for personal drama there because, you know, hey, I'm a storyteller. But one of the things I always noticed was, particularly in Traveller and so on, characters would massively overbuy weapons and armor, and particularly ammunition. Atomic buttloads of ammunition. Not just because they're on a ship and they're going on an expedition and, oh, look, I'll take some spare boxes of bullets from my sidearm. No. They're trying to insist that they're carrying like 20 magazines on them. Which is, now I'd like to say that this is the sign of someone that's just never actually like done the hard plod of serving in armed forces, because magazines are smacking heavy. And I was a cavalryman, which is assault infantry, scout infantry. We were sawing toothbrushes in half to try and minimize weight, because we were having to debus and go very far, very fast, and but these guys are carrying 20 magazines and more, because I don't want a smoke grenade and a pair of rocket rifle grenades. No, I'll take a dozen, thanks. A dozen, okay. Oh, and I'll take. I better take some. I better take a second pistol. Why? I might lose the first one. Oh, I need a sword. You need a sword. Yes, I need a sword. Okay, I better sling my sniper's rifle. Sorry, you got a sniper's rifle and an assault rifle, and now 2 pistols. You got 20 magazines for each of these things. Half a dozen rifle grenades. Half a dozen. Yeah, on it would go. So I thought, I'm trying to listen to what the players are telling me. I thought that what they wanted was a firefight where ammunition is going to be a problem, which means a long siege where you'll cut off. Perfect for the Legion Étrangère thing. Fantastic. So, let's have you cut off. Let's have you fight. Tons of enemies coming at you. You're starting to have to... you're having fun initially, blazing away, and then suddenly it'll hit you that you're going to have to start actually, counting shots, particularly if I can roll something unexpected in there that, destroys part of your ammunition supplies and so on. So, great. And this failed because the players didn't buy in. That isn't actually what they wanted. I think those people just wanted to brutalize and bully. They didn't actually want to be on their back foot and excited. And that's actually not a playstyle that I'm going to cater to. So, that was a spectacular fail for me. However, a friend who's probably watching, hi Rory, did a very funny military game where he decided to take... he was actually using Call of Cthulhu rules, and he decided he's going to do World War One. And the idea was, in that one, there's not only the role-playing going on, but there's also stress. And as stress begins to build up, he had certain triggers that would happen, and your behavior would change. And so that's it. If you've been in the trenches and everything's fine, and the player characters, as far as the guy running it's concerned, everything's fine and fab, and I'm Butch and I'm amazing. But we've had 3 or 4 guys that you knew horribly died, and then the new kid, he just got he just vanished. What? Yeah, no, he was just doing the rounds in the trenches last night. The new lieutenant, he's just gone. Oh, so they're reporting that to you, and you're out of cigarettes. Oh, my character doesn't smoke. Oh, actually, you do. What? You do smoke. No, I said I didn't smoke. No, you do smoke. Yeah, in fact, when did that happen? You've been smoking for about a month now. So you'd suddenly get these behaviours. Suddenly you're drinking a lot of alcohol. Oh, suddenly you've turned into a raging sex maniac. Suddenly you're all about the grift, and you're trying to make deals and so on. These are stress behaviours that you'd begin to accumulate, and they could get worse. And he sort of had layers that he would degenerate to. So suddenly I'm drinking becomes... Suddenly I am dependently drinking to suddenly I am definitely an alcoholic, and my decisions are going out the window. So it was a very clever idea, and it worked very well. And that was the bit that I'd been missing. Use numbers to at least force some kind of limit and change to people's decision-making processes. Stress. So we saw games like Twilight 2000 come out. Again, entirely military. Game Designers Workshop seem to have a real thing for doing military-based games. And so it's for those of you who haven't seen it, it is a game where you're all in the military for some reason. You could actually be a civilian, but it would be a stupid idea because the focus was so much on guns and slaughter and machine gunning and driving tanks and blowing things up and the kung fu fighting that a civilian just wouldn't survive in the game. So you're, some kind of NATO person, the balloon goes up, and World War III happens, and you are stranded in Europe, limited resources. There you are again, and military type situations. And again, it was a very hard game to run because a friend who was running a campaign of it said the problem with it was, again, there was no real sort of mechanics to make things get worse for you. So the umpire's almost trying to deliberately take physical resources away from you to try and cause some sort of stress in the players. And it didn't really work because it felt adversarial. The players began resentful because anytime they did something, made something, created something, I'm going to make a still to generate fuel for this heavy-ass vehicle that we've got. I'm going to try and make a mill to create more brass and so on so that we can get some ammunition reloaded. The umpire will, oh, okay, well, that's something I've got to, like, threaten now, so I've got to have someone try and steal it, kill it, blow it up, take it away. And likewise, if you had a goal, oh, well, we want to get to this submarine base because we've heard there's still a couple of vehicles there and we might be able to get out of this area because the fallout's just going to get worse and worse. But we think if we head off to these islands, that'll be outside of the fallout zone and we'll be able to live there. All right, well, now the umpire knows what you're going to do. He's going to do everything he can to make that as hard as possible. And so you almost didn't tell the umpire what your plans were, which is stupid because he's trying to make a game for you. And yeah, so it became very adversarial. So, and when Traveller 2300 came out, same, it's military again. And the only military stuff they offered were these rules for gunfights, but nothing beyond the gunfights, nothing psychological. So after running more military games myself and whatever, I sort of have, you know, I've come to a certain connoisseur level of things on this. So a good military game, the first things that you need to ask yourself is it going to be theatrically military or is it going to be actual military? Actual military stuff is actually, you know, as the old adage goes, it's immense stretches of absolute boredom followed by very brief intervals of raw terror. And of course, and it's going to change depending on the national character. As an Australian, we don't get this kind of macho hut stuff we see the Americans do. It's like, Australians don't do that, honey. No, no. Sir, yes, sir. Are you high? Is there something wrong? Is this for a movie? You know, that sort of thing doesn't happen. It's more lackadaisical and everyone's making jokes and tearing strips off each other. But so obviously the character is going to be something that you want to come through. Oh, I really would like to do kind of a Star Wars-y thing. Now, there was a series of Star Wars comics. There's a little side jump that I loved, which was called Rogue Squadron, which were all about Luke Skywalker's squadron. And it was sort of, and kind of, this is what the sequels to Star Wars should have been. The idea was that, yes, Death Star's blown up and the Emperor is dead, etc., but there are still little remnant groups of Imperials around who are making trouble. And there's still kind of, there are horrible kind of crime lords and so on, like, you know, Jabba the Hutt sort of guys. So it was the adventures of a squadron who are not only doing military things, tangling in with guys, but they're also kind of like investigators and police. They turn up to an area, try and find out what's going on, make a report, and see if it has to be passed on to someone higher up the chain or if they can deal with it themselves. Great idea. I always wanted to do a Star Wars-y squadron thing where instead of this kind of, yahoo, round 3, stand by, where it actually operates like British fighter pilots from Battle of Britain. The stoicism, the absolute calm, and the studied Oxbridge accents. You know, Roger Blue Leader. Oh, what on your tail? Plus you get the banter. Bally Jerry. Hung a waspy. Went over to his house, your father. Straight into the old briny. But, yeah, so that character is important. The French Foreign Legion thing. That was the fun of that was always, you've joined the Legion in order to die. The Legion will take you where you can die, you know. Plus lots of songs about Roger and the Drummer Boys. So character, but also are you ramping it up to be theatrical? Because a lot of this yeehaw stuff that you see is entirely imaginary. So, but you can do either, but you have to keep it within the bounds of the reality that you have chosen. If it's very ultra realistic, chains of command, sir, yes, sir, massive intelligence organizations passing you information, and you have strict boundaries in which that you are expected to operate, then it has to remain within that. Whereas a more kind of laissez-faire, theatrical thing is, this is the Nerdy Dozen. You get given a mission, you get to do it your way. I don't care how you go about it. I just want results. Up to you. The latter one probably plays well, given the type of intellects we see in role-playing games. So, first choice, character. Second choice, theatrical or realistic. But what is needed, absolutely needed, is some way of bringing stress and panic into rules, because that's the little key that's needed. Then the game becomes not adversarial, with the umpire trying to take things away from you. The player characters are kind of generating their own trouble. What do I mean by this? Well, for instance, the current Alien rules out by Free League, they have stress dice. So when you are in a fight, what you can do is you can elect to roll additional dice, but these are panic dice. You're basically pulling into your reserves of true grit or whatever, and you are giving it the extra, pouring the extra effort in. So it is easier to do the skills, but these dice that you've added, these panic dice, begin to affect how you achieve your skill results. And you can never lessen the amount of panic until you actually take a break, till you've taken away from the source of stress and manage to kind of reset. So obviously what that means is stress builds as you go on, because once you start doing the extra effort and events are going to need you to start pulling in those extra dice, it never goes down, but in fact often the mechanics of these things mean that they go up. You can't lower the amount of stress you put in, but you may need more and more to go on. And if the stress dice sort of start dominating the situation, if they're getting the hits or they're getting more hits than skill and so on, then the stress starts. Some systems will say if you get more hits on the stress and panic dice than skill, then you get panic. Will be controlling the situation. You shoot the guy, but raw skill isn't what does it. You empty the magazine because you panicked. You went over the top. Or the Freer Legan one, essentially, you roll on a chart whenever panic has been involved, and you add your current panic level, and you start to get panic effects on the character depending on what you've rolled. And so as panic gets higher, the effects get worse. So, interesting ways of handling the same sort of thing there. These are really good characteristics of a game to bring in, because things begin to unravel at the edges, and that's what makes a military game work, because people just coldly laying down their plans and then just deciding that they should just work, and getting kind of adversarial when they don't because the umpires tried to put in unforeseen obstacles. It becomes very adversarial between the umpire and the players. But as having the game mechanics start to fray the characters and start to make the plans go awry because the decisions they've made and the things that have happened to them can be seen mechanically in the game frame, way better idea. It's a really well thought out concept. Now there's a game that I've actually really enjoyed, and I did a review of it. It's called I Love the Core. So the Alien role-playing game, the current one by Free League, has a nice stress system. So does I Love the Core, but I Love the Core is very interestingly been set up specifically for a military style campaign. So it's loaded down with all these military special feats and so on that your characters can get. And so you can absolutely had the time of your life making these characters that are just the butchest things on earth. This guy's this amazing scout. He's got all the perception. Oh, he's lightning fast with this knife. This guy, he's the one with the mighty Gatling gun. Huge guy, really stoic. Tons of damage. No one messes with him. Oh yeah, well this is the stern leader that everyone loves. He's some would say he's inflexible, but others would just say, oh, he's a heart of gold beneath a coat of steel. You can make all of these amazing things. And what's kind of neat is that in the umpire sections, it's sort of got like things that kind of undercut these and show you how these things can actually start leading you into disaster and challenges. So it's got some nice guidelines to stop these powers from dominating play the way they do in, say, a Dungeons and Dragons game at the moment with all these feats and so on that you can get that let the player character dominate. These sort of show that no, you can get in there, and in these situations, in the right situations, they're fantastic. However, here's how these things can kind of start leading you down some interesting adventure rabbit holes. So the game design has done a good job. It's got its stress mechanisms and so on in there. But another thing I like about I Love the Core is it's got player material. This is the core. This is what it is. There's umpire material, which then you make decisions about how your world actually runs. The players have just got the propaganda. This is the core. We're loyal to our own. We leave no man behind. We got to get those aliens. Yes, these terrible beasts have been closing in and slaughtering colonists, and only you stand between mankind and destruction. Yada yada squee. But in the umpire books, you now design it, and often there's a lot of big lies behind what's going on, or there might not be. It could be a double blind where the players are expecting, oh God, this is going to be like a Starship Troopers thing where it's actually like, we're really servants of a fascist state, or is this going to be like, it's all a bluff? No, we're actually the aggressors here. Is it going to be very Harry Harrison in its layout? No. There's a little sort of design thing, but just keeping everyone guessing is sort of interesting because it sort of means, should there be an underlying cynicism behind this, or should I be buying this at face value? Wait, maybe it's fun if I buy it at face value, and then if it turns out to be a terrible sham, maybe I don't believe it, or maybe I do. So there's the role-playing rabbit holes pre-built into the game to sort of give it some extra depth, which is what makes it campaignable, as opposed to just like, I have a cool one-shot idea, which is, I have to say, the Alien game tends to mostly lend itself only to one-shots. You could do a scenario. It's going to be a series of linked, combat things, but I Love the Core, has those deeper rabbit holes. I have tried bringing people back to that, hey, let's expend all of our ammunition thing. And where that works has been taking a key from things like the Starship Trooper movies, where tons of things try to overrun you. Again, that works best if there's a panic mechanism within the game. But certainly swamping people with things. Overturning people's expectations can also be very interesting. So doing what people think is going to be a pretty straight military game, but you roll it over so suddenly it's like it's a zombies thing. Yeah. Suddenly we're not so much in I don't know, Saving Private Ryan. We're way more in something like The Evil Dead, or there's some ideas you can have, dimensional portals through to hellish other worlds that are essentially letting demonic things through. Something's possessing the recently dead, and so those guys that you killed before, suddenly Sergeant Wilcox has risen from the dead and he's coming out trying to eat people's throats. So these sudden changes are great because, again, they throw a spanner in the works of what seems to be a straightforward mission, particularly if someone's planned it. The most boring thing on earth is to have the players make a very good plan, and and they should certainly be rewarded for good plans, but making a good plan and having it always go off perfectly. And the always is a thing. Sometimes it definitely should, and there should be those moments, and there's a feel-good moments for the players. But then the fun of, suddenly those dead guys you left behind you have risen and they're after you. And that's when you turn around and you see some sort of giant ship landing and some kind of things are disgorging out of it. The unexpected thing is always good to throw in there. Systems that I like for doing military stuff at the moment, like I said, I love the core. Excellent. The Freeligan Alien is excellent. Cepheus, the new Cepheus that is out, if you get hold of that, what it does is it's got the usual Traveller man-to-man rules, but it's also got a sort of semi-abstracted set of rules for if you are fighting against hidden enemies, or if you've got groups against groups. Returning to that old Traveller Mercenaries idea, if you have squads and so on with you, it allows you to adjudicate what those squads and groups are doing easily without bogging everything down. And there's still player tactics and player control and everything feels good, but there's a mechanism in there for that. And this extends upwards to anything from like outright firefights to clash of tanks to, I don't know, fighters tangling in the air. So that's a useful characteristic to have in that game system. So Cepheus. And Cepheus now has a panic mechanism in it. And in the tradition of Cepheus, it's not too complex. So easy to track, easy to deal with. So despite the re-release of things like Twilight 2000 and Traveller 2300 and several other things, I think those three would be my choice. I love the core, Alien, and Cepheus. Will get you the best, literally bang for your buck. I haven't seen good military stuff for non-science fiction. You can certainly now, Cepheus is entirely flexible, and the new Cepheus does allow you to run low-tech stuff, so you could certainly adapt it, and you could certainly adapt any of those sci-fi rules to a fantasy sort of setting, but I haven't seen really anything specifically done for fantasy military role-playing scenarios. I haven't seen anything that brings in the panic and has rules for adjudicating larger fights, etc. Although you can always, of course, do exactly what original D&D was designed for and ally a role-playing game with a tabletop wargame. That's always where it was. Pendragon, there is a battle system in Pendragon, which I have in fact enjoyed a lot. And good old Bushido had a battle system, but those are more interludes between normal roleplay rather than the basis of the roleplay, which you'd be looking at for a military role-playing game. So anyway, those are kind of my thoughts on the whole military role-playing game campaign idea. It is fun, and the fact that the players are always sort of lightly obsessed with weapons and so on means that this is a good chance to let them run riot with that, and you don't have to worry about equipment restrictions like, hey, did you know there's an automatic grenade launcher? There absolutely is. By all means, take one. It's big and it's heavy, and that means you've got like 4 guys carrying the ammunition for you and another guy carrying the tripod. But sure, you are squad support now. If that's the role you want to play and the things you want to do in the game, fantastic. Bear in mind that you may have to drop this and run, so you can encourage people to take these things. And the reason you encourage them to do that is because the other side's doing it too. Whereas in another game, you might want to sort of limit it because one, you've got an idea which is going to limit geographically where they're going to be using this stuff. No one wants the auto grenade launcher firing down the Starship corridor, thanks. And also, you just don't want that level of ultraviolence in the game. But here it is. There's a few moral concepts you might want to worry about. It's like, in this day and age, particularly with things like the Wagner Group and so forth run riot, it has never, ever, ever been more crystal clear that mercenaries are the scum of the smegging earth. They are people who are just killing people for shits and giggles and for a paycheck. Maybe you don't want to be one. Maybe you really don't want to be one. Maybe mercenaries are not the good guys. Maybe hammers slammers aren't the good guys. Maybe the Jerry Purnell mercenary sort of thing, maybe those aren't the good guys. Is another thought. So there are some moral things that you can roll into some of this. You got caught up, you got excited, you got enlisted. These guys are asking you to do terrible things. How do you feel about that? So yeah, there's some interesting things you can do. The freedom fighter thing is also good. I mean, that's the classic Star Wars, but where ordinary people are now forced to roll over and become resistance folk is another really great trope that you can do. Adds a layer of stress and so on. I tried running one for a mecha game, Heavy Gear, or due to the font they use on the cover, Hy-Vee Covfefe. And the idea was that everyone's prisoners of war who then escape and go off and become the core of some resistance guys after stealing some experimental kit. So you can roll all sorts of different basic ideas, and make a military game that's got a certain amount of flavour. Picking your characters and picking your players is going to be important, though, I have to say. Sorry, I've had a cold. I've got tea. The players you don't want involved. The bully players, no, because this is just going to feed into their fantasies and you're just going to help feed a monster. Honestly suggest no bullies. The weird ones that just seem to really like killing and really like making dark jokes about hey, I'm just dancing this corpse around, and you get some of those. No, because you're just going to feed their fantasies and make a monster. But the more kind of general role player types who buy into feel and stories, I think they'll have a good time with it, particularly if you do those things of coming up with a very definite sort of cultural character to it. As I've said, we are the Legion Étrangère, we are the staunch Brits bashing the Bosch and hammering the Hun. We are the dedicated servants of the Emperor. We are the guys who've suddenly realised, are we the baddies? All these sorts of things. They'll buy into that and they'll have fun with it, and they will make it more than just some dice rolls and buy into it to have a game. The World War I game, fantastic. The players in that, the umpire decided this is going to be the new army. So what happened with the British in World War I is the regs all got wiped out, basically in 1914. So they have to basically raise all these things. So they raised PALS battalions. So the idea was, you are PALS battalions. The idea was join up with your pals. So you'd get companies and so on. They would say, well, we will keep you together. You'll serve with your pals. So you get companies that were made, and they would be the local football club, or the local cricket club, or your local social club, your yachting club. There was the sportsman battalion, which was made up by guys who were all shooting sportsmen and athletes, because someone decided that obviously this superior display of amazing manhood, these guys will all be amazing shots and amazing athletes, and they'll just roll over those Hun like nothing. Yeah, no, they got shelter towns, but whatever. But this was a real thing. So the players decided that they were all part of some kind of amateur cricket network. And so they're getting skills and so on, but as they're coming in, a lot of the skills were cricket oriented. It was they said, "Oh, we'll make cricket skills, but can they kind of roll over a bit?" So obviously bowling probably means you're not a bad guy for tossing grenades. So, no, absolutely they'll roll over. And likewise, a good batsman is actually someone who can probably spot fairly well, is probably quite sharp-eyed and so on. So yeah, we'll let you do that. But of course, their secret ambition was they'd heard about the truce, Christmas 1914, where the Germans and the British got together and played football. These guys, their secret ambition was to have a 3-day test match in no man's land. And I would have liked to see that. But yes, they bought into it thoroughly and really enjoyed the strange stress and the weird stuff going on. And everyone had their schemes and their machinations. Yeah, my character, I managed to weasel my way into being the supply officer because everyone wanted to be butch and everyone wanted to be manly. And I'm not doing anything bad. Like, wait, this war, the casualties are horrifying, aren't they? Yeah. All right. I mean, but look, as an organizer, look, I better organize the supply. I'll volunteer for that thankless task, lads. So, oh, okay. Well, excellent. And so I managed to find enough rifles to outfit the group by basically being a historian and saying, wait, when the Canadians turned up, they brought the Ross rifles with them. And the Ross rifle is a magazine-fed bolt-action rifle, but it was declared to be generally unsuited for service in Flanders because it jammed pretty easily from mud. So they went into stores and the Canadian contingents were all issued with Lee Enfields. However, there are something like 200,000 of these things in stores in Britain. And they are, in fact, issued out to people who are like guards at docks and things like this because, they're having trouble keeping up. So I'll put in a requisition for those. What? Because I'd said I'll get everyone a bolt-action rifle, and if so, that means I was the... That's it, you're going to be the supply officer, which was good. But the guy running the actual battalion said, look, if you do that for me, I'll give you a 2-week leave pass. Says, can you make it a 1-month leave? All right, but look, we never know when I'll be really needed, so can you leave the date blank and it can be cashed in at any time I want? I just write the date in and instantly I'm on holiday for a month. Yes, good. That's my get out of jail free card. I now have a month's holiday abroad in here. So, well then, this is it. We're going over the top tomorrow. Well, actually, you're going over the top tomorrow. I, in fact, will be in Saint-Tropez on a beach. Yeah, if it looks a bit squirrely over there, I do, in fact, have a nice gentleman with a boat revved up who's actually going to take me to... I believe it's I believe it's a adorable little beach town on the coast of Brazil. And so anyway, best of luck going over the top. Enjoy the Battle of the Somme. I'm sure it'll be a big win for our side. Haha, yes. So, yeah. And there were other people with similar plans. Oh god. So yeah, everyone bought in with their extra fun, and that's the thing with any role playing game. You've got to leave open the avenues for people's buy-ins and machinations and fun. The military part of it has to be a framework. If you read, and I love them, the old Sven Hassel books, the best bits of them aren't the combat. The best bits are their incredible weaselly deal makings as they're desperately trying to do something because they've managed to get like a truckload of helmets that they're trying to trade off to someone else because they need to swap those because they need 2 extra engines for these lorries, which they can then recondition. They can sell them off to these guys because that's where they're going to get all this food that they're after. And so, it's these sorts of things is what's the fun in the books, and those sort of things are what's going to be the fun in a military campaign that you do. The military end of it has to be a framework and a really good framework, but it can't be the be-all and the end-all. There has to be more. There has to be those dread secrets from the French Foreign Legion. There has to be the Weasley machinations to get your get-out-of-jail-free card. There has to be your dread rival who you're trying to outdo. There has to be some story bite into the scenario so that people will buy in and just plunge in and enjoy your campaign. So anyway, those are some long thoughts on military role-playing game campaigns. Have fun with them. Keep gaming. Mr. Schnoots and I, will be here enjoying a winter cold, unfortunately, but what the hell. God help us, I'm on stage tomorrow. I've got 12 hours to get rid of this thing. Anyhow,